broadcasting from the Blue Chew Studios. Try Blue Chew free when you use our promo code ARN. Just pay $5 shipping at checkout. Hello and welcome to Arn. This is Paul Bromwell, and today I'm joined by none other than the Hall of Famer, the founder of the Four Horsemen, the creator of the Spine Buster, and in 1988, he was the man with the left hand and mahogany tan. He's the enforcer. He's double A. He's Arn Anderson. Arn, how are you this week?
That flipped you to close the show last week, didn't it?
It did. It did.
I told you, I've been telling folks I'm a damn good-looking man.
You are. You are.
Nobody seems to get it.
Well, buddy, they just got to travel back in time a little 1988 and watch you there with those white sunglasses, that blonde hair, that nice dark beard. You had that chain on, that dress shirt. My goodness, your wife, where is she? Can we bring her back? Let's talk to her. I'm sure she was just enamored with Arn Anderson.
And the main secret to it all is I never took her by lens crafters. So
she didn't have them expensive glasses that JJ did.
If she could have seen well,
right,
I would have never got a shot.
That's funny. Well, I was just thinking back to when JJ said how much money he spent on his glasses. I guess you were fortunate your wife wasn't. Well, listen, let's jump into this week's show. We talked about Barry Windham last week joining the Horsemen. We talked about the Crockett Cup, all good stuff. Today, we're going to talk about the fallout from all those major events. Are you ready, my friend, to dive into May 1988?
Yes.
That's good, because if you said no, I don't know what we would do. But here we go. The month begins in Indianapolis, Indiana, at the Convention Center. On the show, you worked with Dr. Death and Tully wrestled the returning Dusty Rhodes. That's right, Midnight Rider no more, to a count out in the semi-main event. Flair pins Sting, and in the main event of the night, Arn, there's a lot of talent here. Indianapolis was not a regular stop for Jim Crockett. Do you think this is the promotion trying to make a good first impression? Any stories or memories you can share of your time there during the Crockett days?
Where are we talking about? Indianapolis?
Indianapolis, yes, sir.
Yeah, I think Indianapolis is one of those blue-collar towns that was probably not cultivated as much as it should have been. A lot of people there, they love their Colts. That's for sure. And it's just a hard-working, blue-collar bunch of folks in Indy that were probably wrestling fans. I'm just not sure if they were Jim Crockett fans yet.
Yet, I think that's the key word, There was so much exposure. TV stations were picking up across the country. But you're right. There were so many towns, audiences that were still just getting acclimated to Jim Crockett Promotions. And you were trying to test the waters. We've mentioned a few markets over the last few weeks that you're dipping your toe in the water across the country to see, hey, what kind of reaction, what kind of turnout are we going to get here for our brand? So, it's still a little experimentation going on, if you will.
And probably, Paul, to be honest with you, not enough research because they didn't have the resources. Hey, what's the economy in the town? All right, let's look ahead for 4 or 5 weeks before we start our promotion for this town. What else is going on in town that night? All those things that...
They all matter.
Yeah. And as you get smarter in the business, as a company and as a talent and all that, you start to ask those questions, especially when you get there that night and you find out, well, okay, the fair's in town. It may not sound like a big deal, but fair comes once a year. A lot of people spend their money at the fair, Maybe there's another athletic, something going on. Maybe there's a high school state basketball tournament going on, Who knows, there are reasons that a town doesn't draw, and then there are excuses. And the reason sometimes is they just didn't want to see it.
Well, good. The good news is, Arn, back here on the 2nd of May, you're back in Horseman country. You're in Greenville at the Municipal Auditorium. That night, Dusty teamed with Dr. Death, and they defeated you and Tully in a non-title lights-out match. A note I found in the research was that the Midnight Rider was originally advertised instead of Dusty, but again, that angle's changed. Midnight Rider entered on April 30th, so that's that to be determined. at the end of that advertisement, I'm sure. And then from Dorton Arena on May 5th, 1,900 people watched a JCP television taping that wouldn't be aired until May 21st. So, yeah, they had to wait a while to see that one on TV. It's an NWA Pro show, and Barry wrestled the Italian Stallion. And following the match, Jim Ross conducted an interview with Windham and James J. Dillon. Dusty comes out, confronts Windham. The fans in Raleigh are treated to the beginning of another chapter in the Horsemen Dusty rivalry. Arn, let's take a look at what happened in Raleigh that night.
I don't know what Dillon is saying.
I'm not going to get in the ring and we'll get that claw hold off, I'll tell you that there.
Jim Ross now up under the apron, trying, and he broke the code. Finally, Windham gave it up. Let's see if Ross can talk with him.
I'd like to, if I could, I'd like to ask you one question. If I could take that much time to ask you one question. There was one man that went a long time. He brought you along in your career a great deal, and you can't deny that. How are you going to look Dusty Rhodes in the eyes and justify your actions?
Means nothing to me, and he never has. Nobody in this building means a thing to me. What have you ever done for me? I'm the only one. I'm blood, sweat. I've done all the work for everybody. I'm the one that never looked like I was anything. Dusty Rhodes never did anything for me. I lived in his shadow, and never again will I. I am with the Four Horsemen now. They are my friends. They stand for what I stand for. The unity as a team. We are the elite.
Well, maybe you can address that question right here.
Let me ask you something. Are you prepared to do what you're trying to do? Can you look me in the eye after all these years and call yourself a man? Barry Windham, can you look me in the eye? Dusty Rhodes with a right hand on James J. Dillon as he flowed down. Arn Anderson was there. He goes down. Now here's Tully Blanchard, Arn Anderson as they hold a dream. And you see Windham now with that claw locked out of the head of the dream.
Wyndham's got the claw on the American Dream, and he's got it cranked in. Windham, I've never seen this crowd is erupting. Lex Luger's here. Luger and Windham are locked together like wild animals. Well, we got to get this together. Rhodes has been busted open.
All up in the ring. Continue to go at it, fans.
Rhodes has been busted open from the claw of Barry Windham. And
He's got it on Luger
He's got
now.
on Luger. The ring is filling up. It's pandemonium at the Dorton Arena. And we'll be right back. We'll be right back. All right, we're looking at the Horsemen right now. Barry Windham with definite smile on your face.
I'm telling you something right here. At Dusty Rhodes, if you want to taste more of what just happened, you keep sticking your nose in my business. Lex Luger, that's only a taste of what's going to happen to you. You keep messing with my group of men. Now, right here, the Four Horsemen, they stand for what I am. And right now, I am at the top of my game. I'm the very best. And I may never reach a higher peak. Right here is where the Horsemen are, and Barry Windham is at the top of that heap. Dusty Rhodes, you think that you are above the law. You had the Midnight Rider thrown out. You had the whole thing going through litigation, and now you're back in action, just like you always were. It's no secret to me. It's no secret to anybody out there. Lex Luger, you're still a crybaby, and I remember when you were crying at my feet, crying for me to help you. You were at never any type of help to me. I always carried your load. You rode on my shoulders and rode the high horse. Well, I did all the work. Well, it's never going to happen again. The Four Horsemen are going to ride high like never before. The Nature Boy, Arn Anderson, Tully Blanchard, and our elite and illustrious manager, James J. Dillon, are going to take us to new heights that we possibly have never attained before. Everyone out there knows what we are capable of, and you know what we're going to do. Like everyone's been saying, it's going to be a long, long summer, but let me tell you what, the guys on the other side of the track are the ones that are going to be sweating and bleeding all summer long, because we're out here to do what we do best, and that's to hurt everybody out there. Feelings, or whatever it may be, This is the standard of excellence in professional wrestling today.
Ladies and gentlemen, you see the Horsemen.
So there it is, Arn. Barry Windham. First of all, I got to say the pandemonium in the crowd once again, but Jim Ross and Bob Caudle together. First of all, legendary Bob Caudle. Loved Bob. But Jim Ross brings the passion when he's screaming pandemonium. Pandemonium's breaking loose. Dusty Rhodes is bleeding. Oh, so good on the commentary.
It's so critical to what we do. You know, they tell you what you're watching, and they point out maybe some things that you didn't notice about what you were watching, and the reason for it, and what is the story behind it, and how did we get here? You know, all those things. They are so critical to what we do, and JR is certainly going to go down in history as one of the best.
Yeah, for those of you that weren't able to see the video of it, Dusty, like so many times before, he finds himself on the receiving end of a Horseman beat down, and we have Luger running in to make the save, Nikita and others. But Windham's involved in every match and every finish regularly, costing the faces the match against Flair. Arn, Barry is legit over and a well-established superstar, but was this process the means of making him even more of a Horseman? And what I mean by that is the presentation. It's such a 180-degree turn from what people saw all the way to the match in Jacksonville.
Well, Barry, the one thing, and I like to, when we're tearing, you know, these things apart, I like to tell the truth. Barry on this particular promo was feeling his way through. I don't think he was exactly comfortable with self-promotion, and that's what this promo was geared to be. Put yourself over. Make me want to gag on what you're saying. Barry had done the right thing for so long and had been such a straight arrow for so long and done the right thing and been such a baby face over the years. It's hard to just, on a dime, just turn into a real asshole.
Yeah.
So he struggled a little bit, if you notice, with this promo. You know, he could have said a lot less with a lot more conjecture, a lot more feeling, and just trimmed it down and just been as arrogant, you know, as he needed to be. He will get better as time goes on, I assure you.
What I did notice was almost not a verbal cue, but a physical cue where you guys just started forming your hands together as almost a sign to, hey, it's time to wrap it up.
That's exactly what it was. And Barry got it right away. And, you know, sometimes you get a feel for it that it's on the verge, it's going from being good to being a little redundant. And that's where somebody needs to step up, and somebody would always put that hand in when they felt it was time to shut her down.
There you go. That was fun. Yep, totally noticed it. So it's we're moving on. It's May the 6th. We're at the Civic Arena in Pittsburgh in front of 3,800 people. You and Barry defeated your old pals, Brad Armstrong and Tim Horner. There you go. Those are new two names I know you respect and love, buddy.
You're not kidding. God, if I could wrestle those guys, I could still be wrestling. I could right now go dig my boots out wherever they are, throw on a pair of tights, take an hour to stretch out. I could go out and work. That's how good those guys were.
And people would still pay money, hard-earned money, to watch that match right now. I'm telling you, Arn, so good, all of you.
They would pay to maybe to have it stopped, but
no, we would pay to watch.
But I could get through about 10 minutes of it, I bet you.
That's great. Well, and then you're in Baltimore the next day. It's 5,500 people, and they're going to watch you and Tully wrestle Dr. Death and Dusty, with your opponents getting the victory by DQ. It was noted in the research that you and Tully, yes, sir, Mr. Blanchard, were heavily cheered in this match here in Baltimore. That's interesting, Arn. Some wrestling cities have their own personalities. Baltimore is definitely Horseman country. Was it ever odd or strange when you were cheered by a crowd knowing that you're positioned as a heel?
A little bit, but in those days, I think they had gotten to a point. They had seen us together so many times, and we would get beat most of the time. And I think the audience collectively went, okay, wait a minute. I've seen these guys the last 8 shows, and they've been beat 8 times in a row. Maybe I should reevaluate this and let me watch this match from a different perspective. And they started to figure out, who was creating a lot of the excitement. They were watching it from the baby faces mowing us down to the fact that we were putting them in a position to look pretty damn good. And that's where the turn started to be, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think that fans started to maybe just, I don't want to say smarten up a little bit, but to appreciate what you guys were doing, not only in and out of the ring, but some of these promos and just all the your body of work and what you guys were accomplishing at the time. And we're like, screw it. We love these guys. We're cheering for them whether they like it or not, type thing.
Yeah, and we would not play up to them. We would not, acknowledge them. We would just, hey, many nights I would try hey, I don't need your help.
Yeah.
And a few of them would turn on you, but the other ones would just, hell, they'd pop again.
Loyal. Yeah.
They like what they like, and that's the beauty about wrestling fans. And I tell them to this very day, like what you like, that's your prerogative. Whatever you don't like, and if it involves me in it and you're not liking it, change the channel.
There you go. Well, May 9th, Jim Crockett recorded TV at the Cumberland County Memorial Arena in Fayetteville, North Carolina. On that day, you would take on Ronnie Garvin in a match that would air on May 15th. The match went just about 17 minutes. You got some good heat early by complaining about Ronnie Garvin throwing that closed fist of his. It was another fantastic match, but equally important was the way this one ended. Arn, you know what I got here. I got the clip. Let's take a look at it. Yep, here we go.
And Arn Anderson continues to battle back. Here it is.
The stomp.
So I can't even lie about what's going on. You got the clip to substantiate it.
That's right. That's right.
Is anybody going to mention the fact that the guy's stomping me to death?
He is, man. I'm going to ask you about those stomps when this is done.
Arn Anderson is up, and he's swinging.
I always love that. Punching at the air.
I love fighting Ronnie Garvin because you didn't have to bring anything except your accessibility because he would make you fight him.
Yeah.
He's gone. Look at it. He's out. But look, there's no referee at home. No referee.
No referee to be had.
That's Tully Blanchard. Tully saw that. And now Tully. Boom.
Tough son of a bitch, boy.
Rhodes. Finally, some order restored. Your winner by disqualification, Ronnie Garvin. And all the 4 Horsemen. Fans will have more right after this timeout.
All right, talk to us about the Garvin stomp.
Wasn't the stomp so much? I mean, I won't discount him, but the one thing is he could stretch you with just his legs. He didn't even use his arms sometimes. He'd have you in what we call a sugar hold, which would end up trapping your arm behind your head and pushing your head forward. And if you put too much mustard on it, it put you out.
Yeah.
Choke you completely out. And he would do it with just his legs. And he was such a solid worker, and his kicks were flush, and his chops, he'd chop the piss out of you. Him and Flair used to bring blood, to each other.
And he would slap you. He did it in that match, slap you right in the chest. He just felt violent, that man.
And he was. And that was one of the guys that I really enjoyed working with because he would bring the man out of you, or he'd eat you up.
Yeah.
It's up to you. You'd either rise to the occasion and fight him, and you'd have a man's fist fight, or, you'd let him intimidate you, and he'd just eat you up.
Well, for those of you that didn't see the video, the Horsemen ganged up on Garvin, and for the second time, we see Barry use the Iron Claw until the rest of the faces made the save. Arn, what do you think about the throwback to the claw? We know Blackjack Mulligan used it as his finisher, obviously Barry's dad. And as a heel, Blackjack printed money in Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling for a long, long time. Do you have memories about Blackjack that you can share with us? First, answer that question about the claw and then talk about Blackjack.
Well, he was about a half a generation ahead of me. Mulligan was probably the last of the 70s and the first of the 80s, where I was 85 before I got to Crockett. So I missed him. But man, now with Blackjack, he was such a big man. I bet you he was 350 pounds?
Oh, yeah.
Biggest forearms I ever saw on a man. And big hands. And he made the claw totally credible. Now, Barry inherited a story from his dad. I don't know if that fit Barry as well as everyone hoped. Because it wasn't that he had these big, massive hands or this big, massive body. Now, Barry was big and strong and could pick guys up and superplex. I saw him superplex Animal off the top rope a couple of nights, which is pretty damn impressive. So it wasn't a question of strength. But, it was perceived as a nasty thing, the claw. The people who had used it in previous years and decades, I don't know whether it fit this particular point in time, but it wasn't my call anyway.
Well, Arn, it's May 10th. You guys are in Miami with you defeating Ricky Santana in an underneath match in front of 2,943 people. And the next day, JCP recorded an episode of World Championship Wrestling from the Leon County Civic Center in Tallahassee, Florida. And on that show, it aired May 14th. You and Tully interfere in a match with the Powers of Pain and Legion of Doom. What the hell are you thinking? You and Tully jumping into a match with the Powers of Pain and the Legion of Doom?
Yeah.
You guys have a death wish?
I was fixed to say, why do we have a bug up our ass that day? That made no sense, no time, no reason. I can't explain that one to you because there is no explanation for it.
Now, here's the crazy part. According to the research, you guys beat the shit out of Hawk, and he was literally carried out on a stretcher. So that part didn't air on television, but what a scene it had to be. The notion that the Horsemen participated in an attack that saw Hawk being stretchered out of the arena.
And I'm sure it was all of us that jumped on him. But hey, here's the thing. People cannot hold it against us because we told you, here's the game plan. You jump on one of us, you jump on all of us. And the Road Warriors damn sure had to know we weren't going to just come down 2-on-2 and start a beef for those guys.
That's right. Well, we're on NWA Pro. It was recorded the same day. You and Tully cut a standalone promo where it's just the two of you and you're doing your thing. We got it, man. Later in the same show, David Crockett interviews Barry Windham and J.J. Dillon from ringside, and we got both of them. So, Arn, we're going to play them back to back. Let's listen to what you all had to say. Here we go.
I think back the last time we were in Raleigh, Governor Jim Martin and his son sitting right on the front row. We walk by, the governor's son goes. And what that is a symbol of excellence in professional wrestling or any other line of work, 24 hours a day. When you see that, you know you're dealing with the best. And now Dr. Death, Nikita Koloff, they want to scream and holler, and they want to talk about being bad. But you know, Dr. Death, all that amateur stuff, don't get it. That ain't it. This ain't it. It's this that gets it, big man. It's who can go down on the mat and get back up at that 40-minute mark. And the two of you, my friends, when that tongue starts hanging, that's when the 21-inch guns come out and the enforcer really does his thing. And you gentlemen are going to get to find out in Raleigh. If I came out, Tully, and I said, well, we're not a couple of pretty faces, I'd be lying. If I came out here and I said, our heads all scarred up, we're not pretty to look at, I'd be lying. We have took our share of beatings, but while we have excelled and stood above all the rest since our conception 3 years ago, since the formulation of the Horsemen, because he doesn't mind getting knocked down, I don't mind getting knocked down, my tax man don't mind me getting knocked down, because at the end of the year, we're still champion.
And here, the man, the genius that put it all together, James J. Dillon. JJ.
What I did was to recognize excellence. I did not create it. Barry Windham has possessed the ability from day one. Ric Flair said a long, long time ago, the most pure tactician in the wrestling ring anywhere in the world was Barry Windham himself, even though he did not see at that time what unifying with the Four Horsemen could do for his career. But that's history. That's behind him now. Now all we're looking at is a lot of jealous people that don't like what they see. Because you're looking at the World Heavyweight Champion. You're looking at the World Tag Team Champions. And, brother, before this year is over, we're going to have all the hardware. And that's just as simple as I can make it. And no Midnight Rider, no Dr. Death Steve Williams, no Nikita Koloff, no Road Warriors, no Garvins. No one else is going to stand in our way. In the words of Mr. Flair himself, diamonds are forever, and so are the Four Horsemen.
That's right, JJ. You know, I have reached a point of professional wrestling that I am the proven product. I have attained credibility in professional wrestling that cannot be bought and that cannot be gotten in a gym pumping iron. It took years in the wrestling ring to get to the point where I am. I am the very best in the ring. I am a tactician. I know every counter. I know every offensive move in professional wrestling. And now with the help of the Four Horsemen, I can attain all the goals that I set. And no one will stand in the way. Lex Luger, you were merely the turning point in my career. Dusty Rhodes, Road Warriors, and Sting, you will be next, boys.
All right, the newest member.
All right, a couple observations. First of all, Arn, were they 21 inches?
Yeah, he might have fudged that a little bit. 21-inch arms, not quite.
You were looking Miami Vice. You had the pink shirt on, the collar was popped, the guns were out, you shed the glasses. You and Tully were in rare form. I loved it, man. What'd you think of the old promo there?
I'm a fashion plate. You know, oh my God.
You were the model before Rick Martel was.
Yes,
Yes, I'm with you.
I mean, each week we unveil more stuff, and I didn't even do it on purpose. It was
You didn't even try. It was just you being you.
It was me. That's just my style.
Now I gotta touch on Barry because you and I had just talked about that, and it seems like now in this promo, he's moving forward a little bit. You said the last time we watched him, he wasn't really talking about himself enough. Here he did, and it seems like he's starting to get more comfortable as a horseman with every interaction. What did you think about that one?
He inched along on this one.
That's right.
Because everything he said was accurate. If you think about it and you go back and analyze that promo, what about it was not true? And it's when you start stating the obvious, but you put a real arrogant twist to it, then you're really getting there. And he's inching his way there.
I like it too because you have Tully and JJ. You're there always to back him up with the messaging, and that's going to help him as well. But then I also love the fact of Tully calling him BW a couple of times. That just helps with the camaraderie feel, the chemistry, and it brings it like a closer knit group together. So the presentation is all working here as Barry continues to develop as a horseman.
That's a great catch and a great observation because that's what we called him.
Yeah.
You know, backstage, you know, everywhere in the ring, out of the ring, BW, that's it.
Well, on May 13th, the tournament for the U.S. title was at the Sam Houston Coliseum in front of 4,800. Arn, You wrestled Dr. Death in a non-tournament match and were defeated with the dreaded small package, should I say, not the Oklahoma Stampede, for which Dr. Death was famous for. But the important thing that happened that night was Barry Windham winning the U.S. title by defeating the Midnight Rider. Okay, it was the Italian Stallion in the quarterfinals, earning a bye in the second round due to a double elimination. And then he beats Nikita Koloff in the finals. Barry defeated Nikita by pinfall while using the ropes for added leverage.
Excellent.
It happens, Arn. There's been a lot of amazing men that held that United States title, the belt that signified who the number one contender was. And, of course, the man who carried the title was a heartbeat away from the big gold. That's what it always meant back in those days if you were the United States champion. Is there any better representative of that characterization at this time than Barry Windham in your estimation?
No, and you know what? It was well known that the U.S. champion was in direct line to get a world title shot. So if you're sitting around on your couch and you're a pretty educated fan and you're thinking, okay, Barry's just joined the Horsemen, now he's the U.S. champion, what's going to happen when that opportunity comes up at Flair's title?
Good point.
Is he going to cash that in? Is he going to push for that, or is he going to let it go and be happy with his own success right now? You know, it opened up a lot of conjecture.
It's fun, too, to think about because around this time frame after he wins the U.S. title, this is also the time that photo is snapped, which I'm sure you see at many autograph shows of you guys with all the belts. Rick with the big gold, he with the U.S., and you guys with the tag titles. And I'm sure you autographed that picture many times over at a lot of these fan conventions.
Yep, and most people say that was my favorite.
Yes.
You know, there's a lot of oldie fans out there that like the first group, but Barry, from a performance standpoint and making credible matches even go to another level, he was the guy.
All right, well, we're going to get to that because I have a fun question for you as we get to the end of the show. On May 15th, JCP recorded television from the Civic Arena in Asheville. This was a matinee show with 500 in attendance, and the show didn't air until May 28th. You and Tully win an enhancement match in short order against George South and Bob Riddle. George still getting it done, has a wrestling school and doing some good things there. Arn, it's May 15th. And numerous times on the show, the Great American Bash was mentioned by an assortment of the talent. The dark match of this taping saw the Horsemen in a six-man tag match as Flair, Blanchard, and yourself lost to Sting and the Road Warriors. Sting substituted for Dusty, who was advertised, and believe it or not, we have, once again, the actual ad from that newspaper. Let's check it out. I love these newspaper clippings, and I want to show this one to you. Here you go. So there it is. Six-man tag. Dusty, Rhodes, and Road Warriors were advertised against you, Tully, and the Nature Boy. It ends up being Sting on this card. You can see Asheville Civic Center, May 15th, 2 p.m. Arn, there's your kisser on the right-hand side with Tully and Rick.
Nice.
They had that stock photo. You can see the rest of the card there. They had the Fantastics versus the Midnight Express. And what else? We got live TV taping, NWA Worldwide TV programs with such stars as Sting and Koloff and the Mighty Wilbur, Johnny Ace. Now John Laurinaitis in WWE. There you go. But that's the actual newspaper clipping. Pretty cool.
I'll point out something that may or may not stagger you a little bit.
I love it.
Look at the price of the ringside seat, $12. Now,
wow,
that's reasonable. That's reasonably priced. And if you're going to take your family, like we said, when we first got to Crockett, they were running towns weekly and semi-weekly. If you're going to go 3 weeks out of a month or 2 weeks out of a month and take your family, that's pretty reasonable price for a ticket.
Could you imagine $12 to sit ringside to see Ric Flair, Dusty Rhodes, who was advertised, but Sting, the Road Warriors, But Arn Anderson, you get to see Arn Anderson? Are you kidding me? This is incredible.
I look better up close too, I bet you.
You know what? They used the same stock photo for you in last month's clipping. They weren't getting you in the pink shirt with the 21-inch bicep and all this. This was like the dark out sunglasses, you know?
Yeah, and the beard's the shits.
Yeah, the beard, yeah.
I didn't have the lines right on the beard. So they could have taken a much better photo than that, but
that's okay. It's still fun, and this is fun. This is history to go back and look at. So again, thank you, Richard Land, for digging this out for us. These are great clips, newspaper clippings, and we hope our audience is enjoying them. It's on May 15th that we talked about there. May 16th, we move on to Greenville. You worked underneath, defeating the Italian Stallion. The other Horsemen would be beaten by Luger, Garvin, and Sting via DQ. And then we move on to May 20th. JCP recorded TV at the Norfolk Scope with 4,000 people in attendance. The dark match is Dusty, Luger, Sting, all the baby faces, along with Nikita, and they defeated all of you guys. It's Rick, and it's you and Tully and Barry. Arn, that's all the top talent in Jim Crockett at the time, and this is a dream match. And to emphasize a point you have made in previous episodes, the crew was all together on this night and not split up running 2 loops. What a treat for the Norfolk crowd.
yeah, you bet. You bet. And it was a regular town, so they knew when they got half a card and they knew when they got a full card. And Norfolk was one of those great arenas. A lot of servicemen would come, groups 4, 5, 6. We were not baby faces in Norfolk, trust me.
Arn, the following day, you're back at the WTBS studios for TV, and you wrestle David Isley, defeating him with the Gourd Buster. This match just went under 5 minutes, but the length gave JR and Tony plenty of time to put you over, and you got to the show, and you made sure you put over all your moves in the arsenal. Following the match, JJ took the lead on the interview with you, Tully, and Barry, and we've got the clip right here. Let's check it out.
They say the Horsemen rule wrestling. World Heavyweight Champion Ric Flair. World Tag Team Champions. United States Heavyweight Champions. But can they get past that 6-man tomorrow night?
Well, tomorrow night in the Omni, we're going to find out what the Horsemen are all about. Because it's easy to see where the situation is. The American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, high off the suspension being lifted. No more Midnight Rider. No more facade. He is the Dream. He is the legend. He's back at his home right here in the Omni in Atlanta, Georgia. And next to him is the total package of Lex Luger, the one that the wrestling experts say is the next coming of the American Dream. And to his other side is the hottest single attraction in all of sports today, this man they call the Sting. Well, on the other side are the World Tag Team Champions. And listen to what I'm telling you. The World Tag Team Champions, Tully Blanchard and Arn Anderson. And now they're already saying this is going to be the true test for Barry Windham, the newest Horseman. Can he stand side by side with the World Tag Team Champions? Well, Mr. Windham right here is wearing the United States Heavyweight Championship belt across his shoulders. He has already proven his worth, and he will be part of the most elite team in professional wrestling tomorrow night at the Omni.
You know, David Crockett, the Bashes are coming up. Everybody knows what a great advantage that is. Dusty Rhodes likes to come out here and talk about how he's going to rule wrestling and take the Horsemen down. But, you know, he's been trying to do that for 3 years, and the Horsemen are still intact and better than ever with the addition of Barry Windham. But, you know, the Bashes are a little ways off. You got Houston, Texas, JJ, on June 10th. And it's going to be barbed wire, and it's going to be you, Dusty Rhodes, and me. And I'm no stranger to it. You can see the scars, because I don't care about getting scarred up, Dust. I'm not going to be in commercial. I'm just wrestling for a living. And you know, Big Dust, I've been wanting to put you out for a long time. JJ's wanted you out for a long time. Rick's wanted you out for a long time. Arn's wanted you out for a long time. And Barry wants you out. And I'm going to do it. Houston, Texas, it's going to be you and me. And nobody can get in, and nobody can get out. And Dust, I'm going to take you all night long. All right, ladies and gentlemen, more exciting wrestling coming up next. Hang on to your seats.
So, Arn, there we go. One of the things that I want to point out to you here, you didn't even speak at all, obviously, but it's difficult not to be awed by this presentation. We got 3 of the best workers in the business, 4 great talkers, and Flair isn't even here. Man, there's just goosebumps all around for this one.
And it's new, and it's fresh.
It is.
You know, it's not like we're at the 3-month period or the 6-month period. It's brand new.
Well, the next day, you're at the Richmond Coliseum during a hailstorm, my friend. 7,000 fans watched as you, Tully, and Barry fought Dusty, Luger, and Nikita to a no contest. It didn't matter. Rain, storm, snow. You guys were doing your thing, man.
That's a damn good crowd, too.
Yeah, 7,000 for a hailstorm.
Yeah, you know, hailstorms scare most people to death. Nobody would leave home. I would suggest that probably hurt your walk-up immensely.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That could have been a 9,000, attendance. Who knows?
In the Omni on the 22nd, as advertised, Dusty, Luger, and Sting with Magnum TA in their corner fought Barry, Tully, and you to a double countout, 17 minutes, 42 seconds. The entire population of Hillsville, Virginia, all 800 of them, saw you and Tully lose to Luger and Nikita on May 24th in the semi-main event. And then on May 28th, it was TV day in Atlanta, and on the program, you defeated Keith Steinborn in an underneath match. You weren't done, buddy, because that's just not how this rolls, because later that night, you're in Charleston, West Virginia. 2,500 people watched you defeat the Italian Stallion, and then the next day, you're in Greensboro, and you also work with the Italian Stallion that day in front of another 4,000 people. So you worked with the Italian Stallion twice in the same weekend and several other times during the month. Clearly, there's faith in both of you to put on a good match in front of the Greensboro crowd. So, I mean, you had to enjoy working with the Italian Stallion here. You guys were putting on some good matches. They had faith in you here.
Well, without taking it the wrong way, I was at a point that it wasn't about the Stallion. It was about me. You get over to a point to where you can book yourself down the card. You can be in the first match or the second match. You're still one of the Horsemen. You're still one of the top guys. And it just gives you a chance to go down and have a semi-competitive match with a guy and help him and reach down and pull him up a notch or two.
And you guys always did that so well. You would end the month with a TV taping in Savannah on May 30th. And on that show, you and Tully defeated David Isley and Larry Stevens. NWA Pro and the main event were taped on the 31st. And we're going to look at those tapings next month as they didn't air until June. But Arn, that's going to wrap up our coverage for May 1988. Amazing effort by Jim Crockett to make Barry such a kick-ass, believable heel here. And he fit right into the Horsemen with his in-ring work and promo skills. But I'm not letting you get out of here without this. We have fun. We've had some fun here talking about your favorite 2 incarnations of the Horsemen, and a lot of people argue about it. So the first is with Ole, and the second is with Barry. So I want to ask you, I want to put you on the spot. Give us 2 or 3 things that made the grouping special. One with Ole, 2 or 3 things that made it special with Ole, and then 2 or 3 things that made it special with Barry.
It was the first with Ole.
Okay.
And it's hard when you have something that really clicks and it's the first and it's the originals, like a rock and roll band. You lose your lead guitar player, you lose your front man, you're screwed a lot of times. You never reach that magic that you once had. It was at a point where Jim Crockett was ready for an influx of new talent. And, the same day I started, which was March the 5th, I think, with Jim Crockett, you had Buddy Landell, you had myself, you had the Rock and Roll Express coming in around that time, the Midnight Express. For me to come in and get launched, and then to have shortly down the road, Ole start talking about me on TV, started the ball rolling. And me getting that rub was something special, and it was a gift in those days. Me being an Anderson, me showing up on the scene and being able to carry my own weight, even though I was still a rookie, I think made it special for that group. And we were building on that whole Horseman deal.
Sure, it was
which came out of nowhere,
Yeah.
With Barry, it gave us the opportunity. Ole wasn't going to work every day, and he made that clear when he came back to work. Barry was. He was an everyday guy. Barry was durable. Barry was one of those guys that he could drink all night long, get 3 hours sleep, and go out and go 45 minutes. That's just who he was. He wasn't a gym guy. But like I said, I've seen him superplex Animal off the top rope a couple times. Animal's 300 pounds. To stand him straight up on that top turnbuckle and those guys both take that big bump, it was pretty damn spectacular. And it was fresh, it was new, it was a totally different look from Lex. It was a totally different performance standard. You didn't have to cover for Barry for anything. Barry was right there for everything, and that's what made that grouping special.
Barry checked all the boxes as a Horseman. It says
Yes.
that's the key there for him. Ole was the first, a founding member, brought you along. There's loyalty there and a thankfulness for what he did for you. And so that'll always be special. So I think it's safe to assume, kind of summarize it that way. But Barry then came along, and he was the one that was the first one really to check all the boxes when you say he worked every day, would go 45 minutes, and was just like one of the rest of you three.
I should have asked you the question, and you should have answered because you gave a much better answer.
No
than
way,
me.
no way. I wanted to hear what you had to say. I was just kind of summarizing your thoughts, but it makes total sense to me now. Makes
That's the
total
way
sense.
I felt about it. It just was separate entities, which it was so different. That's what freshened us up at that point in time so much.
Absolutely. Arn, it has been my pleasure once again. We'll call it a horse race between Ole and Barry. And that's it, man. We're going to be back next week for June 1988, and we're building to the Great American Bash. Man, I love the bashes. Scaffold matches, war games. Got lots of fun, Arn. This has been great just going back through history, my friend.
Just a little heads up, a little tip. Guys were making money. Guys were buying homes. Guys were buying cars. Life was good. People were having babies. It was all kind of good things going on.
They were buying white sunglasses, gold chains, custom shirts. I mean, it was
Just
all.
me.
Just you. Okay.
Everybody can't pull that look off.
No, that's for sure. And the enforcer, he was pulling that look off. This has been a blast, and we're going to wrap up. For Arn Anderson, the enforcer, the Hall of Famer, the founding member of the Horsemen, I'm Paul Bromwell. We'll see you right here again next time here on Arn